Right now on your 5 News at noon, the Trump administration announcing more tariffs, this time on movies produced overseas. And a Native American tribe is raising new concerns about the proposed site for a prison in Franklin County. We'll have more on new findings presented over the weekend.
Covering news where you live. This is 5 News at noon.
Well, thank you for joining us for your 5 News at noon. I'm Morgan Wrigley here with meteorologist Stephen Elmore. It was a little bit cooler of a start to the day today.
Yeah.
Not uncomfortable by any means, but cooler than we've been having.
Yeah, cooler for this time of year. That's what we had this weekend as well, where it wasn't uncomfortable, but it was just cooler for being May. Still, though, 60s, 70s, and some sunshine. We'll never pass that up. Here's a look at outside right now. You take a look, beautiful blue skies out there. Starting to work at some cloud coverage, though. That's what we're dealing with the rest of the day today. Slowly building that cloud coverage in, so by the time we get to this evening, let's call it mostly cloudy skies. Overall, though, not too much to worry about for your Monday. Still, those daytime highs going to be into those low to mid 70s for us today. Now, tomorrow evening, that's when those rain chances are going to increase for us. We're talking about those scattered showers mainly by the time we get late into the afternoon, if not into the evening hours for your Tuesday. What that's going to do is kick off an active pattern throughout really the rest of this upcoming week with multiple rain chances. Now, the good news is when it comes to any widespread severe weather, it doesn't look likely this week. Sure, a few strong thunderstorms here and there throughout the week will be possible, but really, mainly just looking at some heavy rainfall and the chances for a few strong storms every once in a while. Current temperatures out there right now, very comfortable outside this afternoon into those upper 60s and low 70s, close to those daytime highs for some, but others still climbing by the time we get later on this afternoon. Should be pretty comfortable into those mid to upper 70s for us. Northwest Arkansas, the rest of the day today looks like this. Into those low 70s, cloud coverage going to filter in the rest of this evening. Overall, not too much to worry about the rest of the day today. Across the river valley, that cloud coverage is eventually going to work in, but those daytime highs still climbing into those upper 70s. Again, those rain chances pick up by the time we get to tomorrow evening. We'll talk about it coming up.
Thanks, Stephen. The movie industry is the next focus of President Trump's tariff threats. He said this weekend he'll impose tariffs on any movies made outside of the U.S. The president's comments in a new interview about the Constitution and due process are also generating some controversy. Natalie Brand has more details from the White House.
On NBC's Meet the Press, President Trump said this about upholding the Constitution and due process as laid out in the 5th and 14th Amendments.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the 5th Amendment says
I don't know.
as
It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials.
The comments come as his administration faces court battles over its mass deportation action. Attorney Kathleen Bush Joseph is with the Migration Policy Institute.
Supreme Court justices have long held that the Constitution applies to people who are in the United States, including immigrants.
The president also said this weekend he wants to reopen and expand Alcatraz, the former notorious prison located off the coast of San Francisco. He says to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders, serving as a symbol of law. In what could be a new front of President Trump's tariff war, the president suggested the movie industry would be his next focus. In a social media post Sunday, the president said he's authorized the Department of Commerce and U.S. Trade Representative to slap a 100% tariff on all movies produced in foreign lands.
Other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying if they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, and we should have a tariff.
Industry experts say it's common for movie productions of all budgets to shoot both in the U.S. and other countries. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
The federal case against Sean Diddy Combs begins in New York today, starting with jury selection. Combs faces decades in prison, though he has pleaded not guilty. The 55-year-old hip-hop mogul faces 5 counts, including racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. Prosecutors argue he drugged his alleged victims and forced them to engage in sexual acts. Combs' lawyers say he's innocent.
When Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse.
We're going to fight this case with all of our might until we don't have to fight any longer.
Combs' legal troubles began nearly 2 years ago when ex-girlfriend singer Cassandra Ventura filed a civil suit against him alleging years of physical and sexual abuse. The two settled, though dozens more cases have been filed by other alleged victims. Combs denies the allegations, and last week he rejected a plea deal in this case. If convicted, he could possibly spend the rest of his life in prison. And multiple people are dead after a shooting broke out at a steakhouse in Glendale, Arizona on Sunday night. Police say 3 people were killed, at least 5 were injured, but they do not believe there's a safety concern to the public now. Police say the suspects are still at large, but officers have detained multiple people. Details on this are very limited, but detectives are working to determine what led up to that shooting. And today, federal aid-backed student loan payments resume after a 5-year pause. More than 5 million borrowers are in default right now. They're being reported to credit agencies, and their credit scores are dropping.
Any ways that they can go online to understand how they can get back into the right payment structure, because when they're in default, they can't buy a house, they can't buy a car because their credit scores are down. So it's helpful to them as well as to get this money back into the country.
He says student loan debt has increased by $60 billion since 2020, and in total, student debt adds up to almost $1.7 trillion. Looking ahead here at home, election officials in Sebastian County are getting ready for a special election, and early voting starts on Tuesday. One of the most closely watched races on the ballot is a sales tax that will go to funding consent decree work in Fort Smith. Several other Sebastian County towns will be voting on issues as well. And early voting sites will be open starting again on Tuesday this week at the Sebastian County Courthouse in Fort Smith and at Mansfield City Hall. And election day is Tuesday, May 13th. Well, Fort Smith police say a suspect is in custody after a home invasion. Police say William Winters is the man in these surveillance photos. He's accused of breaking into a home on Zero Street late Friday night, then fleeing on foot after having an altercation with the people inside. Police say the doorbell camera captured these images that helped track him down. And new findings in Franklin County show there are rock formations with old Chikamaga Nation writings on them near the site of the proposed prison in Charleston. Members of the tribe believe there are likely graves of their ancestors on the grounds and say they're hoping to have the prison moved. For hundreds of years, the Chikamaga Nation has lived in Franklin County near that site. Dr. David Journey has studied Native American tribes, including the Chikamaga, for over 50 years. He says he found these writings on the rocks and says preserving artifacts is of utmost importance.
The tribe is trying to protect resources, unknown resources, because people are not surveying the land systematically. We're developing it without control. And there is a need for at least finding what we're destroying before we destroy it.
The Chickamauga Nation chief, Justin Flanagan, says a 3-phase archaeological study needs to be done on the proposed prison property. Well, a Fayetteville High School biology teacher is inspiring his students by bringing the wonders of the world into the classroom. Matthew Holden has traveled the globe, and as 5 News reporter Jose Carranza shows us, he's gearing up for his next big adventure.
At Fayetteville High School, Matthew Holden's biology classroom is buzzing with curiosity. The 7-year veteran teacher keeps his lessons hands-on with labs, projects, and field trips.
I try to make my class as engaging, as hands-on as possible. We do a lot of labs, lots of projects and group work, and then we also try to get out in the community and do field trips and trail cleanups and really show them the relevance of what they're learning in their everyday lives.
But his passion for biology extends far beyond Arkansas. Through fellowships, Holden has explored Antarctica with National Geographic, studied sharks in the Bahamas, and researched microplastics with Earthwatch.
I've been fortunate enough to receive a few of those over the years.
This summer, from July to August, he will once again set sail for science aboard the exploration vessel Nautilus, journeying through the Solomon and Marshall Islands. Holden will serve as a science communication fellow with the Ocean Exploration Trust, a nonprofit founded by Dr. Robert Ballard, who discovered the Titanic.
I believe it's a 68-meter vessel. I think there's about 50 crew aboard, including myself at any given time. It's a pretty busy schedule, so whenever we have ROVs doing dives and I'm narrating, kind of explaining what we're seeing.
Holden will explore underwater volcanoes and search for sunken ships, sharing discoveries through live broadcasts. He says these expeditions have taught him the value of global perspectives, connecting with educators of diverse fields like history and art.
We're able to kind of learn from each other and develop kind of this cross-curricula type lessons and interdisciplinary lessons, which is amazing.
Back in Fayetteville, Holden brings these experiences to his students, many of whom have never seen the ocean. His goal is to spark curiosity and a sense of global citizenship.
I want my students to understand that we're never too old to learn something new. We're never too old to try something new and learn from mistakes and take risks. And I want them to be curious about the world around them, ask questions, seek answers, and ask for help if they need help.
In Fayetteville, covering the news where you live, Jose Carranza, 5 News.